From the missing to the skies above, looking for UFOs, it's little Timmy Seanor and the UFO Report.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Always good to see you here, our resident Timbit, as we take a look at the UFO Report. And it's been another long week in the field of ufology. Lots of strange happenings, lots of strange news, including an old story that seems to be popping up again. I mean, man, can this field get any weirder and weirder than it is right now, Tim?
You are so right, Dave. And we talked about this story when it first came out with the images and videos that we're about to talk about. And we scratched our head, but kind of figured it potentially didn't share any relevance to the real truth on what we're looking for here. But the Malaysia Airlines flight, MH370, and the mysterious disappearance. And so the passenger jet disappeared March 8th of 2014 during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The disappearance of the Boeing 777 with the 227 passengers and 12 crew members on board led to a search effort stretching from the Indian Ocean west of Australia to Central Asia. And so the perplexing nature of the loss of the flight is such that it has become one of history's most famous missing aircrafts. And recently, it has made some headlines again, resurfacing on Reddit and the platform formerly known as Twitter, X. And the discussion boards have been talking about this potential video of orbs surrounding the aircraft and the aircraft disappearing. And so it's considered to be satellite imagery, although some research may show that the satellite that supposedly took this image wasn't around in 2014. So potentially debunked here and potentially verified by others who say that this video isn't fake. And they've done some deep dive research to prove that the video itself is at least real. So, Dave, it has us all scratching our heads, and it's resurfacing again and getting a lot of people talking about it. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, you know, this is one conspiracy theory that I love delving into. Okay, because there is points of some strangeness that goes along with this. And I don't know what happened to the flight. I don't personally think that flight crashed into the ocean. I'm not saying aliens took it. I'm not saying that at all. But one of the things I remember about this when it happened, and I reported on it so long ago, was if the plane crashed in the water, okay, back then, there were no waterproof phones. What happens when a cell phone gets wet? It turns off. And yet there were reports going on at that time that cell phones from loved ones were ringing their phones trying to find their missing family members. And it was ringing 4-6 times before going to voicemail. When your phone is off, it goes directly to voicemail. The other interesting part about that is many of these people had Facebook pages, and their Facebook pages showed them that they were online and that the little green dot beside their name in Facebook Messenger showed them active. Well, if the plane went in the water and the phone was off, how could they ring and how could they be active on Facebook Messenger? Those are two of the mysteries that I don't understand. The other mystery was that there was, I believe, 40 Chinese national counterintelligence agents on that plane heading home after a conference in Kuala Lumpur. Those are people who were into a lot of warfare techniques. What happened to them? Right? Personally, if I were to derive a decision on what happened, I think the plane was diverted to a secret military base of the United States. I don't know what happened to the people. I don't know what's going on. But I do not believe for a second that it was aliens. I don't believe for a second that that plane crashed in the ocean. We would have, with the amount of people who have, and the amount of ocean that has been covered, we would have found a piece of luggage from that plane. Now, the skeptics will say pieces of the plane have been found. Pieces of the luggage have been found. Where?
Yeah.
Where? Nothing has been confirmed. We have assumed that it came from flight MH370, but nothing has ever really been confirmed. And then the high strangeness behind the fact that it was just weeks later, another Malaysian Airlines flight was shot down between Ukraine and Russia, killing everybody on board by a heat-seeking missile. What did that have to do with anything? Was that just coincidence? I don't talk a lot of conspiracy theory on this show because I think conspiracy theories are quite dangerous, Tim. They can lead people down rabbit holes that eventually are extremely ugly. But there is something odd with this one that I really, really am curious about.
Indeed.
I don't believe, I mean, do you believe those new videos that are out?
Well, that's a good question. And obviously, we're talking about real flights and real people. And obviously, we think of those people that lost their lives and the families that are left behind. And it's obviously horrible for them to have to go through living through a mystery of not knowing, excuse me, exactly what potentially happened to their family members. So although we like to talk about potential, theories, we have to consider that there are families left behind here. Now, the satellite video that recently was released has people seemingly blaming an extraterrestrial cause, and with one person suggesting that the orbs flying around a plane is proof that the MH370 may have been, quote, teleported. And so if the leaked footage, excuse me, a plane is seen coming into view by a huge cloud on the left, and then we see as it continues its flight path, a small orb appears to come in from the right and zooms past the craft before going up close near the wings. And soon it's joined by two more orbs, and the trio move in a circular motion around the entire plane. And when the plane approaches the cloud, a strong flash strikes, and the plane, along with the three orbs, disappear in the sky. And so while some people said the footage was fake and created using CGI and 3D animation, others disagreed and analyzed the footage in detail, adding credence to the theory that potentially these three large objects spotted near the Malaysian airliner flight path were not fakes, but actually real. And the blurry images, although they were taken by satellite, could potentially show something extraordinary taking place. And so it's really hard to analyze, with only the available information. However, it is compelling, but I think there'd need to be a lot more analysis done before you could jump to a conclusion like the extraterrestrial hypothesis. I mean, it is incredible footage to view. You and I scrutinized it over and over, Dave, when we first saw it months ago. And again, revisiting it now, it's just as confounding and frustrating, really, because proper analysis really can't be done. You know, scrutinizing everything from the source to frame by frame analysis of what appears to be just bizarre objects moving in synchronicity around this plane before a flash of light, and literally all the objects disappear. It's leaving me incredulous. And honestly, if the research does pan out that this is real, it's a real head scratcher, because I don't think that we as humans have technology that does anything like that.
See, the interesting part about this, there's an alleged rumor, of course, as a lot of UFO stories are, Tim, that this almost exact same thing happened to a B 52 bomber during the Vietnam War, where all of a sudden they were surrounded by UFOs, and that B 52 ended up crashing in the jungles of Vietnam. And it was believed that it was taken down by some sort of UFO presence. So, I mean, to have this drawn, and there have been other videos of helicopters, of propeller planes that all of a sudden are surrounded by these orbs of light and then just vanish into thin air, this ball of light seems to open up and they vanish into it. And this could be, I think the videos we're seeing are not real of this, but maybe this has happened. Maybe that's one of the explanations to where we see a lot of these disappearances in places like the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, we all remember Flight 19, that they were so discombobulated by the weather, none of their gears or monitors were working, or pardon me, back then dials were working due to some sort of magnetic interference that seemed to put them off course. And to this day, 70 years later, it's still an open mystery as to where these planes actually went down, if they in fact went down in the Bermuda Triangle. So there is history.
Absolutely. And also consider the fact that Foo Fighters got their term during, I believe, World War II, where pilots were seeing balls of light and they were chasing them. And literally dogfights were taking place where our military and our opposition's military were chasing these balls of light all over. And they didn't know if they were theirs or ours or what they were. And they were termed Foo Fighters, and perhaps the same thing as what we're seeing here today. I just love the fact that we can kind of prove that it's not our opposition, can't we? If we're seeing the same thing today that we were seeing back previous to our high technology capabilities during World War I and II.
Well, I mean, we got about 3 minutes to go here, so we might as well continue on this topic. But I mean, conspiracy theory aside, if these videos are real, this is an absolute mind-blowing situation that an aircraft can disappear like that. Okay, next question would become, where did it go? Where did it get taken? Okay, where did it vanish off to? Did it go into a different time zone? Looking back at that 1984 television show about the USS Nimitz that went into that portal and showed up in World War II right before Pearl Harbor. Is that what happened? There's so many different theories that could trigger the conspiracy theorist out there regarding this. I don't know what to think. Yeah. I just, in my non, and I'm going to quote this, non-expertise, there would have been something showing up in the ocean. We haven't found it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on the connection and the potential of what took place historically with the Philadelphia experiment? I mean, is that something that really took place? Did a battleship really disappear and reappear with parts and components of the ship melting with the crew?
Well, the funny part about that is Jessica Jones from the Cryptid Report was actually in Montauk this past weekend looking for the USS Eldridge, which allegedly makes an appearance every 20 years off the shores of Montauk. Now, they were out there looking for it. I don't know if it actually showed up. Okay, but it's around this time of year where it's allegedly seen. Now, the funny story about the Eldridge is the Eldridge, I believe, hasn't been scrapped yet. It was sold off to, I believe, an Asian or a Southeast Asian company or country, and it was used as some other type of ship, not a warship, but a supply type ship for a private company. And I believe that it's never been scuttled or retired as of yet. So it could still be sailing out there. So the fact that the Eldridge, appears due to the Montauk project and the Philadelphia experiments, it's kind of interesting to see that turn. And I could see where you would draw a potential conclusion between the two. The Final Countdown was the name of that show, by the way, where the aircraft carrier went into that time warp and ended up in World War II, just as the Japanese were about to invade Pearl Harbor. So, I don't know, Tim. This is one of those creepy stories that I think is going to be a conspiracy theory for the next 50, 60 years. We're not going to know the answer. There's a lot of brilliant technology and a lot of brilliant people who have studied this, and nothing has come out solid on it yet. So that tells me something strange has happened. When we return on the UFO report, because we got little Timmy Seanor here right to the top of the hour, we're going to get to scientists at Fermilab close in on a fifth force of nature. What's that all about? And how can a UFO whistleblower keep security clearance? Yeah, we're going to touch that too on Spaced Out Radio with Tim Seanor and the UFO Report coming up next.
Oh man, you're like a kid with his pocket money burning a hole in his pocket.
With
every
what?
time. Just every time I can see it, you're just
I love that story.
It's such a good story. Yeah.
So the big question, Tim, if a UFO landed in little Timmy Seanor's backyard,
again,
would you walk onto it? Would you walk onto it?
Yeah. 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 I don't think I'd have an option, but yeah. I mean, yeah. At this point, I would just really want to film it. I just be like, I'll go with you, but you have to let me film it and keep the footage. Live stream it to my YouTube channel. Come on, work with me. Need to share. But yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have to take extra shorts. But I think I would go.
So we restarted our ghost tours this past Saturday night.
Yes.
And what a success it was. We had 68 people on the tour.
Whoa, that's twice as much as what you guessed it would be.
I was thinking 30 to 35, maybe 40. Okay. We had 68 people. And we donate all the money back to the museum because it's a nonprofit museum. Tim, you've seen how beautiful it is there. And we were able to raise on that first tour $1,750 for the museum.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I told the organizer, well, I'm the organizer, but the president, the president.
I do.
Kelly.
Yeah.
I told her, for all those people who were bashing us previously on the board, I said, throw that money on your table and tell them to shove it up their ass.
Oh, right.
Totally did. She goes, "You're just not going to let that go, are you?" I said, "Not." I said, "No, not until half of them are gone."
And that's Canadian, so think how big those bills are. It'd be really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
But it was nice. And I have a feeling I don't think we'll get 68 on our next tour on the 26th, but I think we're going to be close.
Maybe more.
And I hope not. That was hard. That was really hard.
I'll bet. So you had a massive crowd up in that area that we were in?
In the post house.
Wow.
Where the Blue Man is.
Oh my God.
On my tour, we had 2 people get cobwebbed in the face.
Yeah.
Which is like ectoplasm.
Mm-hmm.
We had Willie come out and play, gave one of the this young psychic lady a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Mary came out to play. It was fantastic.
I have a question for you. Have you been up on the catwalk?
We don't take anybody up on the catwalk during the tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had remember where we saw something in the back corner there?
Yeah.
That we definitely got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell them though. Don't ever show them, because I will pay the price.
Yeah, we won't tell the ghosts that we captured them.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, yeah, that was kind of cool.
Amazing. That is an active area, and I'm not even somebody that knows any better, but
yeah,
we had so much luck everywhere there. I must just assume that that's an active area.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't scary though. Like it was, some moments were, but like, yeah, it was just kind of like things happening around you. You don't even like, I don't know. I didn't feel the fear factor I thought I would.
No, it was pretty good. It was pretty good, and a lot of positive comments, a lot of photographs taken. We opened up a 5th building on the tour, the Ice House.
Oh, awesome.
So
a lot of mists can be captured there. You see a lot of mists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you liked it there. Hey, I want to say a big thank you to T-Bone, Louis with the hat trick, W Decker ×2, Paramarv, Smitty, Android, Noble Patrick, Free Your Mind, Derek, Aaron, and Debster for the amazing super chats. Also, our Space Travelers Club is now open on Patreon. We'd love it if you join that club and help us improve it for you. Here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. And if you want to join the Space Travelers Club, head on over to Patreon. All right, here comes little Timmy Seanor and the UFO Report. Science may have made a big finding coming up here. All right, Tim, I'm not sure I fully understand this one, so I'm going to let you break it down, and then we're going to chat about it.
Absolutely. So they're subatomic particles. They're called muons, and they're all over the place. A brand new substance that they're finding evidence for. And so it's a subatomic particle called a muon, and they're not behaving in the way predicted by the current theory of subatomic physics. So scientists believe that the unknown force could be acting on muons, and this unknown force is what we're going to be talking about a little bit. So more data will obviously be needed to be confirm the results, but this is actually the second set of results that we're getting to and from this new revolution in physics coming from uh, actually the US Particle Accelerator facility. And so it's called Fermilab. And they build on results that were initially announced in 2021, in which Fermilab team first suggested the possibility of a fifth force of nature. And since then, the research team has gathered more data and reduced the uncertainty of their measurements by a factor of 2. And so in the experiment with the catchy name G-2, the researchers accelerate the subatomic particles called muons at around, the subatomic particles called muons around a 15-meter diameter ring, where they are circulated at about 1,000 times at nearly the speed of light. The researchers found that they might be behaving in a way that can't be explained by the current theory, which is called the Standard Model, because the influence of a new force of nature. And so just very briefly, I'll explain what a muon exactly is. And so in simple terms, muons can ionize any kind of matter as they pass through it. And so the electrons are produced by this ionization. These electrons can be detected, and we can detect them with devices called an atomic clock or a muon detector. And so using this device, you can predict energy release as it passes through. And what we're discovering is that that predictability factor is shifting, and we're starting to see that there may be a new element or form of energy acting on these muons. And so we're able to use these detectors to detect this new form of energy, if that makes any sense.
So what does this all mean? Is this more of a physics thing? Is it more of a chemistry? Is it more about how biology reacts? How are we looking at this?
Geophysics, right? So it's something that we're learning as earth physics, something that's acting upon the earth, acting upon the gravity. So it's basically, we know that gravity is a force, and this is basically a new force that we're able to detect with how muons interact with it. And so we use a muon detector, basically, to analyze the activity of the muon, and you can see that there's this mysterious force acting on it. And it's that new mysterious force that we're so interested in, because it's like discovering gravity, if you will. And so we don't know exactly what this force is yet. And so we're very much on the brink of discovery on that. And so we'll keep listening to what comes from Fermilab, and we'll find out a little bit more as it comes at us, if you will.
How do we use the force, Tim? How do we use the force?
Well, potentially we could use it to create a very new form of energy that we could use, anti-gravity, that sort of thing, potentially. I mean, there's all kinds of uses for a new kind of energy, or a new kind of anti-gravity, or a new control over another energy force. There's a lot of potentials there. I'm obviously throwing a lot of stuff at the wind there that is potential.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still just trying to figure out, how will this affect humanity? Science isn't my strength, as you know.
Right. Right. And so we use super colliders to discover new interactions on a subatomic level, on a very small level, if you will. And so we're analyzing how things interact on the moment of impact sometimes, or just at how they move when they're highly sped up, and then they're interacted with by something that is actually radiating from space, and it penetrates all the way through matter, comes down, and it penetrates everything, these muons. And so we can determine a constant stream of muons, and we can predict that. So now if we see something interact with that predictability, and we're like, what is that force? That's a new force that we're discovering, and we're discovering it on a subatomic level.
Got you. All right, let's move on to story number 3 here. And this has to do with a lot of what we have been talking about the last 9-10 days regarding whistleblowers. What do you got for us, Tim?
Absolutely. And also, I wanted to bring up another really interesting article, I think, because King Charles is getting in on this conversation and is actually being pressured to release the truth on UFOs, and also called upon to help prepare the religious for the impact of ET life. So, not just Grush and the United States are in turmoil on this topic. It sounds like even in Great Britain, they're starting to put the pressure on. And so King Charles is now being called on by the UK government to release more information about UFOs and the possibility of ET life in order to help prepare for the country's first contact with aliens. And so the king, like his late father, Prince Philip, has an interest in UFOs. And according to Mark Christopher Lee, whose documentary God versus Aliens examines the impact the discovery of ET beings would have on religion. And so Lee argues that Charles, as the head of the Church of England, has a duty to prepare the millions of followers of the church around the world for the impact of disclosure, and that we are not the only sentient life in the universe. So getting the king involved early on in his career as king. Dave, what are your thoughts getting the crown involved early on this topic?
There is a large history of ufology in the last 100+ years within the royal family, going back to Lord Mountbatten, where apparently he watched a UFO land on his property. And I believe he was a great uncle or an uncle for Prince Charles, brother to Prince Charles' father. Don't quote me on that, but there is a family lineage where there was an alleged landing on one of their properties at one of their castles, and this humanoid came out wearing overalls, okay, wanting to say hello, and then just as quickly got back in his ship and left. And Prince Philip, the king's father, has also been seen in photographs carrying UFO books. This is a subject that is very intrigued the royal family for a long time. I think if he decides to get into this, it would be probably more powerful than when Pope Francis said a number of years ago that if alien life does exist out there and they are visiting Earth, that he would be more than happy to baptize them in the name of Christ. Okay, so it's very interesting to see how this plays out. Okay, but the big questions that need to be asked, this is why I hate this topic in mainstream media. These moron reporters don't know how to cover this story. They need to be asking questions. Why would the king now be mentioned with this topic? Why would the king be talking about this subject? Why should he be preparing Parliament or the church for this? Let's get to when we talk about big questions that need to be asked. These are big questions. It's not just reporting on the story by the BBC where the king is should be getting the Parliament prepared and the Church of England prepared for this. Why? What's happened? What have you learned? But it seems like more and more this subject is getting to the ears and the eyes of people who need to know about this if they haven't already, like your government in the United States, like the Canadian government, the King of England. Okay. I think it's great. I do. I think this is a positive move forward, but is he part of the cover up? Is he going to allow the Church of England to know what he knows? Because this will, if we do know that this subject will affect every religion, positively and negatively. Where does he go with it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think it's an attempt to appear progressive, right? And an understanding of current topics, at least. And the fact is that we know that they refer immediately to David Grush and what is taking place in the United States right now in this conversation. So I think it's very obvious that once again, the world is looking to the US for lead. And I think that's great because it's a conversation that needs to be had no matter what side of the story you fall on. It needs to be talked about. So I also find it interesting that the recent Intercept article, in an attempt to perhaps out David Grush and his the fact that he was able to keep his security clearance after a psychiatric detention. Personally, I felt that that was more a feather in his cap. Like this wasn't a negative, in my opinion. When I first read it, I was like, yeah, that's great. Why would he? Fantastic. Like they actually did something right this time. So when I was reading these stories and everyone was really like, see, this is them fighting back. I was like, well, if this was their attempt at pushback, it really was obviously them shooting directly into their own foot, because all of the information that was revealed really just supports and humanizes this man and shows how he lives a normal life like all of us, has ups and downs, and is still willing to come forward no matter what his past was, to come forward with what his truth was. Showed incredible bravery. And I think the fact is he knew that this was going to come out. He gave us the breadcrumbs, right? And so I don't think that he had any fear of repercussion on this kind of information. I think that he and his family are probably already steadfast. So this kind of information really was, if anything, just more wind in the sails for this whole case.
Well, we had Bruce Claggett on from BFC Communications, who's been a lifelong journalist. He's, for, people out there, just for integrity, he is a friend of mine. Okay. We work together in Vancouver, and he is somebody that if I have journalism questions, that is who I go to. For over 30 years in the business, plus he's been a journalism instructor at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. Okay, I trust his word on how journalism works and how everything goes with the stories. And I agree with you about the whole David Grush thing. I'm still a little bit, disgusted by the fact that there are people out there who have no clue how journalism works, who are calling what Ken Klippenstein did as high quality journalism. No, you took a cheap shot at the guy's mental health. If he was any sort of threat, he would have had his security clearance revoked. They're not just going to say, "Oh, you were in a psych ward because you were having extremely dark thoughts that you needed a little bit of a mental timeout. So now we're going to ruin your life." No, they kept him there because he was a professional. Okay. People, and I know people who have vetted David Grush and say that he is an upstanding American who will do anything to help his country. Okay. And I think, patriotism is a word that is loosely thrown around, but he's that type of guy. And the fact that they did not take him or his security clearance away, and they still had him working on the Woo desk, which is one of the most secretive desks out there, says something to me. And if people can't see that, but all they want to see is the guy when he was at his lowest point in his life, I think that says a lot of words about those people who think that that was actually news.
Right.
A
Right.
person's struggles are not news.
100%. And the Interceptor article was obviously biased, considering a very loosely, I'll term it an op-ed piece. He was potentially pointed to the information from one source or another. And he openly admits, the author of this article openly admits that he doesn't believe in the possibility of UFO life visiting Earth. So he doesn't believe anything that is being brought forward in any of the hearings. So he was already prepared with his own ammunition to, reveal that this was not something he agreed with one way or another.
And
And
I
he did
brought,
it in a very
sorry,
vicious way.
sorry for cutting you off there.
No,
And
that's fine.
I brought that up with Bruce Claggett on a previous show just a couple days ago. Okay. Where I gave the example. Tim, I mean, and everybody of our audience knows what I think of the game of soccer. Okay. But when
Yeah.
I was forced, literally with a gun to my head, I'm teasing on that. Okay. To cover a soccer game or a soccer practice, even though I didn't like it, I still had to remain professional and cover at a neutral level. I still had to do my job because that's what I got paid for. My opinion of soccer was irrelevant. And this is where I don't understand where Ken Klippenstein is coming from, because in the many interviews that he has done, one of the first things he says is he doesn't believe in the UFO story. He thinks it's garbage. So when you think something is garbage, and like you said, going into a story bias, you're already tainting your readers. You're already tainting the subject matter. Your opinion as a journalist should never matter. It should never be a part of the story. And in return for this clickbait type article, knowing that people were going to read it on The Intercept and read Ken Klippenstein, they gained a bunch of new followers. Whether they agreed with Klippenstein or not, the move on a business level has been successful.
Yeah. And Ken made a public request for information on Grush via his Twitter account. And when he made his article, he only told the negative stories that were brought forward. He claims that there were positive ones, but can't seem to think of any. That sounds like somebody with a heavy bias that was only focusing on
Absolutely.
the negative.
Absolutely. It's you know, it's shady journalism. It really is shady journalism that I don't agree with. I don't agree with a lot of journalism today because of the way journalists have put themselves in any type of story. Okay. Journalism, and maybe I'm old school, is still down the road. You are the referee for people. You are their eyes, their ears. You're the judge and you're the jury as well. But you can never be the executioner. Klippenstein tried to be the executioner in this, and that was wrong. And it's too bad that that article is going to get a bunch of clickbait readers now who are going to read an extremely one-sided op-ed piece and not true journalism in what he was trying to perform. And to use someone's health records, that's the lowest of the low when it comes to journalism.
That's right. And we're seeing a lot of journalists picking and choosing what they're publishing nowadays, and that just needs to stop. Publish the whole story.
There was an article today in Canada where 4 of the major news outlets all had the same lead. And it's all over Twitter right now. And it's all against or supporting a government that paid off its journalists up here in Canada. That's what's interesting. Tim Seanor, Another great report. Thank you so much. Thank you to Steve Stockton for a great story, and our guest tonight, Katie Page, talking UFOs all night long. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night.